Hello everyone, this is Direwolf20 and welcome to episode 67 of Direwolf20's Server Play series. Kinda all by myself today, that's okay. A little bit off hours from the normal time a lot of people play, but I want to get a video in because I wanted to show you guys this really cool build that I have in mind. I'm really excited for it. I'm going to be automating something that in the end should be pretty awesome, but it's going to require a lot of effort. So let's get started. First thing I'm going to need to do is check out a couple things. I'm probably going to need to build myself another smeltery. Actually, I need more than just a smeltery. I need 5 smelteries. But I'm only going to build one for now. And we'll get started on this build, and then I'll duplicate what I've made a little bit here and there. Also, having a little bit of an issue. I did not account for bats. Apparently bats don't have any problem spawning in mushroom ages. These guys weren't spawning for the last couple days, but now all of a sudden they're like all over the place. Down here. Bats everywhere. Maybe I should light up this area to prevent them from spawning? I don't know. There's a couple spawning down here as well. Oi. We'll have to figure out how to solve that issue. Maybe MFFS will come to our rescue. Alright, let me start putting together what I need to get a smeltery, and I'll be right back. Alright, we are back, and let's put together what we need for our smeltery. Gonna get my dire hammer, and I think I want my smeltery to start out right
User joined your channel.
here. Hello. What's up, Benny? Part 1 of Smeltery. Now you might be wondering why I mapped out such a large area. That's because I'm accounting for the automation that I'm going to build into this system. So let's see, 3 of you guys, 3 of you guys, and we'll probably want our lava tank, you, and a smeltery controller, and we'll probably want a drain. Yes, probably. I'm thinking the drain can go here. And I'm going to see if I can get this to work with just one kind of, you know, row or whatever. There we go. That looks pretty good. So we've got a smelter. You can see it's working because we've got the little fire effects right here. And I should probably get myself an ender tank of lava. Oh, no ender pearls. Really? Already out of ender pearls? Alright, I'll be right back. I have to go to the end. Alright, that looks like enough ender pearls. Let's just get one of these guys for now, and while we're at it, we'll get a yellow flower and a red rose. Just so I'm using my own lava instead of whoever decided white was lava. There we go. You can go right there, buddy. Output. Nice. Looking sharp. Alright, so we've got the basic setup going. Now, next step, I'm going to want to automate this. And I'm debating if I want to leave this sunken into the ground the way I have it, or if I want to bump it up one level. I might decide to do that. We'll see. Alright, next step in this little crazy process is the following. Getting some dark cabling. Dark cabling is kind of like the switch cable that you have in Industrial Craft, in that you can use this cable to receive a redstone signal, and it'll terminate a connection to the network so that it no longer connects up. Cool. So we're going to go ahead and play with a couple pieces of dark cabling. 3 should be plenty for now. And how is my 16K crafting coming along? Still got a little ways to go. I'm waiting on this thing to come out, and then we'll be ready. Okay, so let's put this together. Also, hopefully this helped. I lit the area up down here a little bit with some wrath lamps. We'll see if it helps eliminate these bat spawns that seem to be all over the place. They are a nuisance, and I'm not pleased to have them. Alright, let's take a look. So next up, I want to build the ME system that's going to help us with this build. probably really just, oh, you know what I should also have is an access terminal. I think I need a conversion matrix, it's called. There we go. So really simple and basic ME system, right? We're going to go controller, storage chest, access terminal, and then we just need a little bit of power. Cool. There we go. Power on. Beautiful. All right, so now that we've got this, I'm going to put in aluminum. Can't put it in yet. Need to put storage unit in there. Now I can put in aluminum and copper. Cool. So this guy's storing my aluminum and copper for me. So let's say we want to make aluminum brass. That's what this smeltery is going to be designated to make. So let's figure out how we can do it. All right. What I want to do is probably create the following setup. I'm going to need some ME cabling here, and I'll probably want this running underground as well. So let's see if I can't, you know what I could do? Just to make this all nice and neat. Let's do this. Because then I can really hide my cabling. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to keep things nice and organized in this thing. Do I have any of the stuff for this? Of course not. Shouldn't be too big a deal though. I think I'm going to need more ME cable, so I better make some. So I should be able to power this thing directly like so. And then this will keep things nice and look good. You here, and the ME cabling going into here. My network should at this point be powered. Cool. I can pull items in and out. Good. Nice. That works. Now I can run my ME cabling across here. And here's where I'm going to put in my interface. I actually probably want the interface connection like this, and you'll see why in a moment, trust me. And what we're going to tell the interface to do is, now as we know, aluminum brass is a combination of 3 aluminum and 1 copper, okay? 3-to-1 copper ratio. But remember, when we use aluminum ore, we double it. So that's going to come up with, if we did 3 aluminum ore, we'd have 6. So there's no way to get 3 aluminum from aluminum ore, so we're going to do 3 aluminum ore and 2 copper. So that'll be 6 and 2 instead of 3 and 1. Cool? So that's going to be our export config. And then what we should wind up seeing here is exported items. So why aren't you exporting? All right, maybe it's just that this actually does need to be connected. I wasn't sure about this part, but we're going to fix this. Come on now. There we go. Now you should be exporting items, right? There we go. So he's keeping the 3 aluminum and 2 copper in there as requested. Good job. All right, let's relocate this wrath lamp somewhere that's going to be a little less in the way. That should do. Next up, we're going to need some Buildcraft stuff. Meet you back here in a minute when I've got all the ingredients. All right, hopefully got everything I need. So I want to pull items out of this thing under certain conditions. So I'm going to use an autarkic iron AND gate here, and we're going to basically say when the red pipe signal is on, which I didn't put any red pipe wire in yet, we'll get to that, what that's going to mean in a minute. Red pipe signal on, and I'll have that do an energy pulse. Now here I want to have a cobblestone structure pipe, and on that I'm going to put a golden AND gate. And what I'm going to say is when the tank is empty and inventory empty, emit a red pipe signal. Okay, so what this is going to do is something very useful. Now finally I need one more iron AND gate. I grabbed a regular gate. Let me go get an iron AND gate here. Hopefully it's cooked one up for me by now. Iron AND gate. Yeah, I've got a few of these. Good. Finally, I want to use my dark cabling and hook this up like so. I'm going to put a cable here, and this guy is going to set to be when red pipe signal is off, emit a redstone signal. Okay, so here's how this combination of things works. When this tank is empty, it's going to emit a red pipe signal, which turns off the network, because when the red pipe signal is off, the redstone signal is on. When the red pipe signal is on, the redstone signal is off. So with this red pipe signal being on, this export config is no longer connected to the network. See how it's not automatically refilling? Okay. At the same time, it's going to activate the autarkic iron AND gate and to cause it to pull these items out of this chest inventory. Now, once the items hit the smeltery, they're going to no longer be empty, but hopefully by then it will have pulled out all 5 items. Once that has populated in here, it's going to go ahead and turn off the red pipe signal, which will turn on the dark cable, allowing the ME interface to refill itself. But it won't be pumped out yet because the red pipe signal will be off and we won't be energy pulsing anymore. Let's watch what happens. Energy pulsar. Okay, see how it pulled all the items out and they're not refilling? But as soon as they hit the inventory here, note that it refilled the exported items config. But it's not pumping them out anymore. Cool, right? So with this configuration, we're able to automate, okay, the creation of aluminum brass. Awesome. So now the ME interface is connected. We can come over here and see that very clearly. ME interface is connected, right? Now, once this stuff all melts down, it's going to need to go somewhere, and that's coming up in just a moment. We'll handle the storage of the liquid in a moment here, but for now, we've automated this. Now, remember, I set this up to be an AND gate with tank empty and inventory empty, so it's not going to put items in here again until we both burn up all the metals and we empty out the tank completely. Once they're both empty, then it'll get another set of aluminum ore and copper ingots. Awesome. All right, I'll be back in a moment once I'm ready for the next stage of this build. All right, next part of this build, we're going to get some liquiducts. And I'm going to wrench this guy into the right position so that he pulls liquid out of the tank when he receives a redstone signal, of course. And he's going to store it right here in this tank. Okay. Now, what I want to be able to do is the following. I want to set this thing up so that when inventory is empty, I want him to emit a redstone signal. So that's why I use a gold gate here. So the trick is, remember, aluminum and copper melt at different speeds. And if I just constantly pumped out of this tank, we would, pull the aluminum out before the copper melted, and then we wouldn't have aluminum brass. We'd have molten aluminum and molten copper. That's not what we want, obviously. So we want to wait for the inventory to be empty before we emit a redstone signal. Ta-da! And there we go. So now it drained out the tank, and because it drained out the tank, look what happened. It refilled with the aluminum ore and the copper ingots. So now this is fully automated. We're completely automating the creation of the molten brass. Cool, right? So watch what happens. Basically, once all this melts down completely, the aluminum ore is going to melt first, and the copper ore will melt second. So let's wait and see. All right, so we're getting pretty close to the point where the aluminum is going to melt down. Now the aluminum is about to melt, so keep an eye on it. There it goes. But note that it's not draining out because the inventory is not empty, so therefore there's no redstone signal. We're going to wait for all the items to be completely melted before this gate emits a redstone signal, causing the liquid to get pulled out. Once that occurs, we'll pull the liquid out. Once the liquid's out, then we're going to meet the red pipe signal conditional, and everything's going to work pretty well. Hey, Dio.
Hello.
I was just demonstrating how this works. I told Dio I'm going to figure out a way to automate his smelteries, and he's like, well, they really weren't designed to be automated. And I'm like, it's what I do. I'm pretty proud of this.
I'm gonna get on and see it.
Sure, man. All right, now that we've got this dumping out into this tank here, guys, I have a couple more steps to do, and then we'll be ready to roll. Give me a few minutes here to get ready, and I'll be right back to show you guys the next stage of this build. All right, guys, we are back. Next step of this build is I want to be able to transfer liquid from this tank into this ender tank on command. But then I also want to be able to transfer liquid from this ender tank back to this tank on command. So that's what this is going to be for. Now the final piece of this puzzle is a tricky part. Let's assume that this tank is full. At some point it probably will be, especially if I let this keep running, which I currently have disabled. I turned off the automation of the system for a minute. In fact, let me turn it back on because we have quite a ways to go. There we go. So let's assume at some point this tank fills up. And it completely fills up the ender tank, and then in the time that we're going to be doing things, it has more liquid that can go back in this tank. The ender tank won't be able to properly drain. You'll see why this might be a problem in a minute. So I'm going to have like a little bit of a runoff. So we'll run off over to here. And maybe, we'll see exactly how we want this to work. Let's do it as just a casting basin for now, and we'll see if we need a buffer. Out of seared bricks. It's alright, I was making more. And while I'm at it, I'm also going to grab a hopper. So we're going to try it directly like this. And this should connect up here. So basically what happens is when we activate this piece, let's get my levers. Do I have any levers? Probably not. Why would I have levers? We'll have this lever and this lever. And this will obviously be automated in a different way pretty soon. Okay, so let's say I want to have access to this liquid metal. I'm going to flip this lever. Ta-da! Where do I want the liquid metal to be? Well, why don't I show you? And now you should be pretty close to seeing the point of this build. Ta-da! So I'm going to have an alternate ender tank right out here. Now what's going to happen is anybody's going to be able to come over here and say, I want aluminum brass. So they're going to be able to flip a lever or access it somehow, and it'll do this. They'll use their aluminum brass like so. Sweet. Alright, I've got the blank cast that I wanted. I'm done with the aluminum brass. I'm going to flip the lever off. Cool. So the aluminum brass drains out of the ender tank, back into the main tank, and what extra occurs to exist is going to go into this casting basin. So we might get a little bit of an overflow of liquid into the casting basin, but this is really to prevent an overflow situation because, like I said, if this tank was completely filled up and then it drained into here and then a little bit more liquid went in and somebody didn't use much, when it goes to drain back in, like if we didn't have this connection here, right, if all we had was this, when it goes to drain back in, it probably wouldn't all fit. So the ender tank would remain with a little bit of liquid inside, and we really don't want that situation for the way I'm going to build this because I've got a setup ready to go for 5 or 4 more of these. So I want to have cobalt, ardite, manilium, and what's that pink metal? Alumite. And what I'm going to do is have this similar setup for everything. So I'm going to be having a bunch of liquid production of molten metals. Anybody can walk up over here and access one of those 5 metals by flipping a lever, or maybe it'll be a computer-controlled touchscreen. I haven't decided exactly how I'm going to do it yet, but the plan is somebody can decide, hey, I want some manilium, and he flips the lever, and it'll fill this ender tank with manulin, and then they can, click, 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 do whatever they want, and then when they're done, they flip the lever off, and the ender tank drains again. So they have access to all the different metals available to us. The reason I wanted the hopper is because I want to be able to drain out the hopper into here. Now, what I'm going to do with these excess metals that are going to be produced, I don't know. I could just kind of yank them and drop them right into the smeltery. So put them in here. That's a possible answer. Another solution would be just to put them directly into the AE system, and then I'll collect them over time and maybe manually have to clean them up or do something with them. We'll see. And also keep in mind, because the way this is built right now, it doesn't matter if I throw the blank cast and the block of aluminum brass in here at the moment. You can see what's going to happen is nothing until all the items are empty. So even though we have a bunch of aluminum ore in here and we threw blank cast, so now we have a big mix of metals, aluminum brass, etc. Once the copper melts down, once everything is melted, it'll go ahead and drain. So it'll wait until all this stuff is melted. But what I'll do here is probably just throw, I don't know if I want just a regular old vanilla chest. Might not be a bad idea. Could have something like this, and a hopper here, and then what I could do is set up like a import bus on that chest to pull the items into here. What do you think, Dial?
This is far more automated than I ever thought when I was making it. Looks really cool, though.
Mission accomplished. Oh, right, we want this off so that this thing fills up. So it'll have to be like a NOT gate type situation here. So we'll want to flip one lever, flip the other lever, and it'll, switch it out. So it'll keep this tank filled as a buffer. And remember, when this tank fills up, the smeltery won't be able to drain, so therefore it won't be producing any more of the liquid metal. It'll stop filling in until the smeltery is emptied. So if this, tank fills up eventually, we'll just have a smeltery sitting here waiting. Cool, right? And this casting basin seemed to have done his job. See, look, we got 2 blocks of aluminum brass. Excellent. So I can go melt that down again, or it would be imported via import bus into this network. And then I'd say, all right, we've got a bunch of aluminum brass sitting here. Let's just, go melt it or do something with it. I'm sure I'll come up with a use. Can never have too much of aluminum brass. So that is the automated smeltery setup. Now let's run the cabling correctly for this thing. I'm probably going to want to use red net cable. And I'll probably want to do a couple other little things. So let me get a couple ingredients here, and I'll be right back. All right, we're back, guys. So I've got a redstone torch here hooked up to this cabling. And is this guy connected? He is. Good. So let's say we want to run this red net cable over to here. We'll probably want, let's say we want the lever to be, I don't want it here because I don't want it to affect this thing, so let's put it here, for example. Okay, so I'm going to want just for temporary purposes this. Okay, this will of course be hidden a little bit better, but we're currently in proof of concept testing mode. We'll hide the cabling and make it look awesome in a little bit. Okay, not the best cabling job, but it'll do. Okay, so in theory, this should do what I want it to. So let's give it a try, shall we? You ready, M-Dial?
Yep.
So let's assume this lever is the aluminum brass lever. When we flip it, we should see aluminum brass filling up the ender tank. Cool. And then when we flip it off, we should see the ender tank draining of aluminum brass. Nice. That is awesome. That brings a big old smile to my face. You guys don't know how long I was, spending trying to get this to work just right. Like, it's not the hardest build in the world, but getting it to work just right and compact and not overcomplicated and over-engineered was pretty tricky. And then we can cover up most of the cabling here, like so. That doesn't look too bad. I like it. So now I just have to do this 4 more times. Oh boy, that's going to be interesting. I also, by the way, got myself some bees between last episode and this one. Didn't mention that to you guys. Let's go take a look. And I will be right back. But real quick, wanted to show you cobalt and ardite. And I'm already collecting, these guys produce ardite nuggets and cobalt nuggets. They can't be directly placed inside of a smeltery, so we're going to have to auto-craft them into ingots and then melt them. But we'll deal with that shortly. For now, I'm pretty pleased with the progress made thus far on the automated smeltery for aluminum brass. Now I'm going to let this thing run for a little bit, and I'll be back in a few minutes, and hopefully this tank will have filled up, and we should see this thing stop processing completely. Be right back. Alright guys, we are back, and before we wrap up this episode, because we're getting a little close, I'm going to make one more of these setups, and hopefully I left myself enough room for everything to behave and be good. That's the plan, at least. Okay, so we'll probably want to start right about here. Does that sound right? I think so. Let's see. That lines up with that, and with that. That should do. So if that's the case, then we're going to want to dig out these guys. And that's nicely lined up as well. Lined up there, looking good. Alright, so we wanted, this should be our faucet. So let's get our minium stone to handle this. We want a seared tank. I don't have any glass on me. Great. This is why I set this up here, guys. Because I'm terrible at remembering to bring stuff. Traveling between dimensions because I forgot one item. Not a lot of fun. We're going to controller. No. And then we're going to need a drain. Cool. So we'll do the exact same build, right? Smeltery drain, smeltery controller, seared tank. We'll go with a little bit of seared glass just for effect. Now this one's going to be for alumite, and I've got one little problem with alumite, and I was just testing this in a single player world and yelling at MDio for it. Alumite's all kinds of wonky with its recipe. You need 5 aluminum, and you basically need a ratio of 5 to 2 to 2. So we're going to need 5 aluminum, we're going to need 4 iron ingots or 2 iron ore, and we're going to need 2 obsidian. So if we did 5, 4, and 2, that's a total of 11 items. And guess what a 1 height smeltery is going to have room for? 9. If I had 2 iron ore instead of ingots, then it's exactly 9, and that's enough to do it in 1 height. So part of me doesn't want to build this up another layer and just keep all these things exactly the same looking. And if I did that, I need to use iron ore instead of iron ingots. And we obviously can't transform iron ore into or iron ingots into iron ore, but what we can make is iron ore with UU matter. So I might wind up turning that on and going that route, but we'll see. For now, we'll just give it a minute. So we're going to need a couple things here. We're going to need some obsidian. Oh, we have a lot of obsidian, that's good. And we're going to need the aluminum, and we'll probably just get a few pieces of iron. Well, let's get ourselves some iron ore. I got to look at the recipe for that. Alright, here we go. Iron ore, obsidian. Let's see how this progress is making out. That'll do for now. Alright, so if we want this same exact setup, I'm going to need another interface. I think I've got all the cabling I need, but let me go craft up an interface and I'll be right back. Alright guys, so here goes nothing. I'm going to have the ME dark cable set up here. Right, so normal cable, dark cable, like so. Normal, dark, interface. Interface will be configured in a moment. We're going to need some structure pipe, which I know I forgot. And do I have the wooden as well? And I've got the red pipe wire at least. So this guy set up like that. We will wrench it into the correct position. We will autarkic iron and gate that thing. We'll have a golden gate. Oh, this needs to not be, yeah, autarkic iron and, correct. Structure. That guy. Iron and, golden and. This guy will say red pipe signal off, redstone signal. Cool. This guy will say red pipe signal on, energy pulsar. And this guy will say tank empty, inventory empty, red pipe, redstone. Cool? Cool. So let's do this for now. We want 5, 2, and 2. There we go. And 2. Cool. And then we want liquid ducts from here to a tank. And I'll set up the automation piece in a minute, but this should work now. So you should be connected to here. So hopefully I have enough ME cable for this. Remember, I made more just in case. This will actually do nicely because I have another idea or two on how to really automate this thing. Helps to have your jetpack on when you jump off a cliff. Cool, so this guy's got the 5 aluminum, the 2 iron, and the obsidian that he needs. So let's turn this thing on. That ought to do. Hopefully this all works correctly. Nice. It did. I wasn't sure with 9 items being pumped out if it would flow properly, but it looks like it is. The only other thing I need now is an ender tank, which I thought I had an extra of, but maybe not. Yellow, yellow, red. Do I have any in here? No, of course not. Ender tank. And we're definitely wrapping up time, guys. We're like super close, if not already a little bit past wrapping up point. Red, yellow, yellow, and drain, which means you should start melting. And now we're rocking. So this should work. And I think what we'll do is we'll wait until next episode and we'll come back to see that everything's behaving. Look. This thing is doing exactly what I wanted it to. Once we got to the position where this tank filled up completely, we found ourselves with a stuck system. It stops operating because it's got liquid in the tank and nowhere to send it. So by design, it's no longer operating. Everything's on hold. But if we start using some of this aluminum, well, then we have something to deal with, right? So let's flip the lever here and just watch this. Boom. Flipping the lever causes the ender tank to fill up with all the molten aluminum brass stuff. Cool. And we can use it form casts, form molds, whatever we want to do with aluminum brass, and then when we're done, we flip the lever off. Now we're going to have another lever next to this that'll activate the alumite, and that might be pretty awesome. Okay, so now this casting is getting filled up, this thing's draining properly the way I wanted to see it do it. Perfect. Everything's working properly. And because we used up a little bit of the molten aluminum brass, it's going ahead and making a few bit more of it for me. And then when I've got that filled up again, it'll be on hold. Perfect. This is behaving exactly the way I want it to. And how's this doing? We're melting some aluminum. We've got a little bit left to do. Let's just give it a minute and then we'll wrap up, okay? So way past the wrapping up point here, guys, but I really did want you to be able to see this. So again, we've got unmixed metal. This is a perfect example of why I needed the inventory to be empty before I activate the liquid drain. Otherwise, we'd be draining out molten aluminum and molten iron, but we're not getting the alumite that we want. We have to wait for the obsidian to melt all the way. But once that's done, we should see this thing kick into gear, and we'll get another set of stuff, and we'll get the liquid alumite drained out. So here goes obsidian. Once the obsidian melts down, it should mix and then drain. Ta-da! Alumite. And then a new set of stuff comes in. Perfect. Beautiful. I'm really happy with this. All right, guys, Direwolf20 signing off. Hope you enjoyed the episode. When we come back next episode, hopefully I'll have a couple more of these smeltery designs set up, but then we have to get into making cobalt, ardite, and manilium, because those are the three metals that remain that I feel we're going to have available for people to use in the system. I'll also hook up the rednet cabling here so that we can have another lever set up to do the rednet cabling for this guy so that you can request alumite. Cool? Sounds like a plan. All right, guys, take it easy.